What's up, gamers? It's Nico from NeedtoKnow. Today I'm going to give my first impressions on StellarHub by Casualogic. It releases 8/17 on the Steam store for $8.99. Link will be in the description. It's a space management simulator in the same vein as Planetbase. So let's get started. So StellarHub, what is it? If Casualogic sounds familiar, they are also the developers behind the early access game Starfringe Adversus, which as of this video has had no developments due to lack of funding. Developments have halted per comments by the developer himself on August of 2016 in a discussion post, and it remains in early access. However, StellarHub is a completed game. The developer has commented that there may be future updates for more content, but that this is to be determined by the sales. Until then, there will be periodic bug fixes and enhancements to gameplay. But don't allow this to deter you, as I found StellarHub to be a great Starbase simulator/management game for the price. And Casualogic seems to really want this game to succeed where Starfringe had failed. So in StellarHub, you have a hub, which is where you start, and you'll see your inhabitants. You have the option in the beginning to select either amateur, professional, or semi-professional. It defaulted to professional, so I left it as is. And what that means is when you start the game and you start placing your modules of what you want to build, provided you have the resources to do so, each of the characters already have their assigned roles, and upon completion of the module, they'll go directly to that hub and start. When you start, there aren't very many things to choose from other than the necessary things you need, like sun, oxygen, food, beds, recreational enjoyment, and mining. In order to place these modules, for instance, for the sun, you have to place them on a little icon that has the sun. That way you can harness, power of the sun. Same goes for the oxygen, which is represented by a little cloud on the map, and it's like a little O2 dust cloud. You have to place that next to it, and given each of the characters' roles, they'll, start harvesting the necessary materials until they deplete. Now, I got to a point where my oxygen did deplete, but I didn't see any more oxygen modules on my map, so I guess they were doomed to die. But, I'm sure once you get the hang of how the layout is, you'll, find more oxygen hubs as you explore. There are question marks on the map, and if you hover over them, it tells you that you need a probe. And probes are created with the ability found in the science lab, and that's just another thing that you can build. And when you when you get the ability to create probes, which will be on the other tab, you'll be able to place them by themselves. You don't need to connect them per little connection sectors as you do the rest of your space station. It'll start processing, and it'll tell you, what it's found underneath the question marks. Of course, you can't build over them, so you have to probe them in order to remove them. At the very top, you'll have the number of occupants in your space station, your oxygen, your power, and the sun percentage, and of course your money. Below that, you'll have the resources on what you have available. Now, when you start, your hub is going to be the main area that contains all of the necessary resources. In order to maintain that, of course, you have to build the mining sectors. They are represented by 2 ore icons. If you back out using your scroll wheel, you can see the little icons on the map. You'll just build a mining station leading up to it, and if you have miners automatically assigned, they'll get to work. Now, ore and every other material can be stored, and you do need a place to store these, so you have to build storage units, or storage modules anyway, depending on how much you're going to be, collecting and harvesting. You're going to need more than one. Same for beds. The quarters in here for the sleeping quarters have only 4 beds. If you have 12 people, do the math. You're going to need quite a bit of beds to accommodate these people. Other than that, you do have the med bay, which is a little different from med bays of other management games, where you can vaccinate your peoples and to keep disease from spreading. So if they're sick, they'll have a small icon, and you can just click on them and click on the medical symbol, and they'll just stop what they're doing and they'll walk directly to the med bay, get whatever is fixed, get fixed, and then go back right to work. They also have skills, and depending on their profession, of course, they'll max that skill out. So they'll become better and harvest more of the resources in their given profession. Now, building these modules is a little bit different. You have workers who are automatically assigned if you have profession, and the hub, as I mentioned, is the main area where most of the supplies are being distributed. So you'll have workers actually pick up boxes and place them in the area that's going to be constructed in. And once they reach the amount needed, a technician will come and start building, and it takes a process, and it has like a little bar that tells you how long they have to go. If you have multiple buildings going on at once, I don't know how it's set by priority. It's probably just whatever's closest and whatever's easiest to get to and what you have materials for. Gathering materials early on is fairly simple, but you will notice that you'll run out of space as far as storage, so you'll know because there's going to be an icon telling you, hey, you have no more storage. You're either going to have to stop him and have him do something else, or just build another place to store. Do keep in mind, the more places you build, that means more oxygen and more power. So, as I mentioned earlier, oxygen does deplete. I did not find another cloud, so be mindful of how many of these modules you build. Otherwise, you may find yourself losing oxygen fairly quickly once you lose your little oxygen cloud. Now, you do have threats. There will be occasional points where you'll have enemies, or just freak accidents happen, and you'll be notified because the screen will start pulsing red, and you'll see where the accidents happen. From my experience playing this, they've automatically, fixed themselves. When the workers noticed it was happening, they stopped what they were doing and went to go fix it. You do have the option to build trade pads, which, if there is a trade ship in the area, which will say it right beneath your resource bar, and when he's in the area and you have a trade pad module installed somewhere on your station, they'll land there and you can buy and sell goods, buy and sell your resources, that sort of thing. In my experience with management games, I've played City Skylines, the most recent Kingdoms and Castles. I like these kinds of games. This one was a lot simpler, mostly because everybody is autonomous and they do their own thing, provided they're, have their own professions. Now, when I mentioned earlier that it starts defaulted as professional, you can have semi-professional or amateur if you just want everybody brand spanking new. You can assign anybody to do whatever you want them to do. They don't have to do that profession. But each hub needs to have a specific set of requirements met before you can actually assign somebody. If you assign somebody who's a miner to a med bay, they may kill somebody, and that's not good. You don't want somebody who's, good at mining to be poking at your body. So those are things to keep in mind whenever you assign these roles. If they're not already, if you don't set it to professional, you do have to be careful. You will have instances where your people are going to be like, hey, can I have a raise? And you can say, sure, or you can say no. And they'll have instances where they're going to be mad, and they'll have little red icons that show their distress. Red is bad, green is good. As long as you keep that in mind, it's easy to look at to make sure you know who's feeling good and who isn't feeling good. So, it helps you better manage, since you can't zoom in too close, but you can see just enough what everybody's needs are by the color of their icons. As a full release, I'd say for $8.99, this is a great game. As far as future releases, that's left completely up to the developer, who's open to the idea. And so far I like it. It's simple, but at the same time it's complex, because you have to actually keep in mind the skill sets of each of your inhabitants. You have to understand which hubs have which hubs come with requirements, and push people to do the things accordingly so that your people can actually get healed, you can harvest the most resources, and you can flourish. If you keep people where they're supposed to be, where they have the highest skill set, you'll manage a lot easier. As far as spreading out, there are little padlocks. I didn't get a chance to spread out that far, but you do have that ability to expand. Maybe you'll find more gas clouds. Unfortunately, I think my people will suffocate. But, you know, that's what happens. There are instances where you can install a weapons base. That's in the advanced tutorial where it teaches you how to actually defend your base should pirates come or, you know, somebody come to try and take your stuff. But yeah, I enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. It holds your hand, but at the same time it kind of lets you go with a blindfold on. So you just kind of have to feel your way around. If you've played other management games, this is going to be something that'll click. You have to pay attention to what you're managing, and you have to pay attention to the resources. Not so much as building and expanding, because you get too big too quickly, you're going to run out of all your resources. And then what? Your people are going to die, and they're probably going to hate you. But, you know, that's how resource management games go. Anyway, folks, this has been my first impressions on StellarHub by Casualogic. And it will release the 17th of August, so be sure to check the link in the description for updates. And if you're interested, go for it. I recommend it. This has been Nico from NeedtoKnow. Stay in the know, gamers.